What's up? Welcome to Cohn and Krueger. That's Larry Krueger. I'm Grant Cohn. The 49ers are making news. They got a player. They got in trouble. It's all happening. And they might get Zach Wilson too, which is the most exciting news of all. Larry, let's talk about the player they got first. Brandon Parker, offensive tackle, came from the Raiders, seems to be replacing Matt Pryor on the Niners roster. We all remember the Matt Pryor era. It was phenomenal. What do you think of the Brandon Parker era?
Well, he's only slightly better and more interesting than Matt Pryor. I mean, he's a huge guy. He's 6'8", 310-pound offensive lineman, 35-inch arms. He played at North Carolina A&T, and the guy, his father played offensive line for North Carolina in the early 1990s. Now is coaching high school. His offensive line coach was Ron Mattis, who played in the NFL for 8 years. And he's an interesting prospect because he's 6'8" with ridiculously long arms, but he's never quite been what anybody's wanted. And if you look at the way he grades out, he hasn't graded out well according to Pro Football Focus. So, he is kind of like Matt. I think you said it perfectly. Matt Pryor was this offensive lineman who had played in the league, hadn't played particularly well, but he wasn't a rookie and he did have some experience, and that's what he brought to the table. And now Pryor has moved on and they've gone to Brandon Parker, who basically fills the same role. I don't think he's good enough to beat out Colton McKivitz. And if you're not good enough to beat out Colton McKivitz, at this point, what are we talking about? I think they're going to find a real tackle or two in the draft, would be my guess.
I'm just looking him up now. I'm seeing that he played 5 games last year. So why? I'm looking. Brandon Parker, he was on IR?
Yeah,
they brought him back at the end of the year, I guess.
Right, he's had injuries.
Okay,
he's had some moments. I mean, he's like a scout stream. If you look at him, you're like, oh man, look at this guy. He's got all the, he's the, he's the son of a coach.
Third round pick in 2018.
There's a lot to like, and he was a 4-year starter in college, and he's got good hands, and he can slide his feet, and he's got decent movement, long arms. Then you flip on the film, and you realize that, man, there's no consistency. The footwork is totally uneven. Anybody who's got like strong, active hands, he struggles against. Body control's just okay. He's got long arms, but he doesn't get the most out of it. It's just he doesn't strike with consistency. He doesn't play with consistency. So, but he is a 6'8", long-armed offensive tackle who once upon a time was a 3rd-round pick. So, somebody liked him. He's got some potential. I think he's just veteran stopgap just in case they can't find somebody in the draft.
Well, I'm seeing that in 2022, he played 17 games, started 13 for the Raiders. And this isn't PFF, but I mean, I don't know how much stock you put into PFF as opposed to other grading places. Like Sys Data Hub is another one, and it's free. And they have a thing called like total points earned. I don't know how they calculate it. I don't know if it's better or worse than PFF, but they liked Brandon Parker in 2021. So that's 2 years ago. I guess he didn't play much. Did he play in 2022? No, he didn't play in 2022. He only played 5 games last year. So who knows what he has left? I guess you're sort of taking a flyer on a guy who had a solid season 2 years ago, and he's still not 30 yet.
Yeah. And, he's a healthy, I mean, here's the bottom line, like offensive tackles, you're not going to find those guys walking around. So you better have like a good depth plan. And he's 6'8". He's now 320 pounds. He has experience in the league. It's like if you put him out there, he's not going to wet down his leg. I mean, he's played some ball in the NFL. I mean, he's had experience in the NFL. He hasn't had consistent success, but he is 6'8" with long arms. And if they feel like Forster can teach him something, but I still think this doesn't change anything. I still believe they're going to look hard in the offensive tackle spot in the draft.
I hate to think it changes something. I mean, I'm looking into Brandon Parker. He's got a little draft pedigree. He started some games. He's not terrible. Is he better than Colton McKivitz?
I don't think so. I mean, Colt McKivitz is nothing special, but I don't. I think Parker's less than McKivitz.
Right. So he would be a backup to McKivitz for an upgrade over McKivitz, and that's
Your mic's
not
a little
Brandon Parker.
crackly right there. I'm getting a little.
Sorry, I
crackle.
think it's Let me close some tabs. I have like 14 tabs open. That usually does it.
Too many tabs at one time.
Too many tabs. Is that better? Somewhat.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is better.
Okay. So look, I think it would be kind of disheartening if the Niners stood pat at offensive tackle with Brandon Parker and Jalen Moore as their backups.
Yeah, no. I mean, the 49ers only have a few needs at this point because of free agency, and those needs are offensive tackle, maybe offensive guard, maybe center, if you're not a Brendel guy, but definitely the right side of the offensive line is a major question mark for them. And then who's going to be the third quarterback? Maybe a backup, one more receiver if you could find somebody who is really dynamic that could help Brock out. And then, you could make an argument they're pretty fortified, but like whatever best player available they see on the defensive side, they could use maybe one tackle, one end, one linebacker, one safety, one corner, maybe, and maybe some of those guys could be day 3 guys. Some of them could be after the draft guys, but they've pretty much done a lot of their free agent work on the defensive side, but they could maybe use one guy per spot there on defense. But the real need is, the offensive line, center, right guard, right tackle.
Yeah, I'm gonna say something. I got a wild statement here. I agree with you. I don't think this changes anything. I think the Niners, they don't listen to the noise. They listen to
a little bit more crackle. I got a little more crackle.
Is crackle? Hold on. Okay, all right, hold on. Let me get rid of all these. Okay, I think we're better. I'm gonna say my theory while I fix the crackle. I'm gonna say my theory. I'm gonna come back to it in a little bit later.
Okay.
No, can I see it? Is the crackle gone?
Yeah.
Is the crackle gone?
Yeah.
Okay. I think the extension for McKivitz and this signing is total smokescreen city. And I still think they're looking for an offensive tackle. I think they knew that everyone expected them to be in the market for one, and they tried to throw us off. I think they're trying to throw us off, Larry. Smokescreen.
Or just make sure that you don't have teams targeting you as the team they have to trade in front of for a particular tackle. I think I think they look at it this way. I don't think Shanahan really believes too many rookies along the offensive line can really plug and play, step right into the thing and play. So I think he's got 2 approaches. I think they've got the approach of let's get ready to play week 1. And that was re-sign Feliciano, re-sign McKivitz, fortify with veterans. And then I think they are going to utilize this draft because it's a great draft for offensive centers, guards, and tackles. I think they're going to build their offensive line of the future, at least with 2 picks, maybe as many as 3 in this draft. And they may not come with the first pick. It may not come at 31. It may be in round 2 and 3. I think some of the best offensive linemen are in the middle rounds, not necessarily the guys up top. So, but I really think that they're thinking short term right now, but when it comes to the draft, they'll think long term on that offensive line.
I want to push back a little bit on the notion that Kyle wouldn't or doesn't want to start rookies on the offensive line. He did it with Burford. He did it with McGlinchey. And I mean, McGlinchey was never great, but he was always kind of the same. Good run blocker, shaky pass protector. The offense was fine with him out there as a rookie. I think the Niners would start a rookie at right tackle if he's good. And I think the thing about this draft is it's supposed to be really good at offensive tackle. And I think they should be able to find a right tackle who's better than Colton McKivitz and Brandon Parker. I think they can do it.
I think they can. There's no doubt they can.
Yeah. So I think that's why it's a smokescreen. I mean, they extended Colton McKivitz, but for 1 year. Like, that's not a serious extension. You brought in Brandon Parker. He's played 5 games in the last 2 seasons. You're still looking for a right tackle, aren't you? Aren't you? I see it right through it. Can't put that past. I see a smoke screen. I can smell it. It's that time of year, Larry. You got to smell the smoke screens.
Well, and then the other thing is this: there. Like I expect Alt, Fashanu, Fuaga, Latham, Mims, Morgan, maybe even Guyton. I expect 6 or 7 offensive tackles to go off the board before they pick. But I just think that if you prepare this way and you fill the spots with veterans, if you get to 31 and suddenly 7 or 8 tackles are off the board, but you're staring at Xavier Leggett, who at 6'3", 230 ran in the 4.3s, or you're staring at, some receiver that you love, Brian Thomas from LSU, or maybe Ladd McConkey. I don't know who they fall in love with. You know what? Malachi Corley or something like that. If you're staring at a receiver you love or another position that you love, and you can go best player available, because I think there's 15 tackles in this draft that are pretty damn good. And you might be able to get your guy in round 2.
I like it. Tre'Davious White, free agent, same agent as Travarius Ward, who mentioned on social media that if the fans or the team is interested, he could be the middleman and work it out. Do you think the Niners should go after Tre'Davious White?
No, I don't. And here's the thing. I think Tre'Davious White is it's all about timing, right? If you had said this name 3 years ago, yes, absolutely. Right. This was the guy. I mean, you had to have this guy. But then if you watch him coming off the injury, I mean, he's not old. We're only talking about a guy who's what is he, 29? But he's had major surgeries and injuries. So Tre'Davious White, I would say no, because you're probably going to have to pay him a little bit more, because he used to be a number 1 corner, but he's not that player anymore. And I just think that if you look at their depth chart, Grant, at corner, I mean, they've got, normally you go with 5, maybe 6 corners. They have Mooney, Ambry, Lenore, Womack, Luter, Isaac Yadam, who they just signed as number 6. And they have Chase Lucas, who's number 7, who's more of a special teamer. They need a true number 1 corner, but they've got corner depth. They just need that number 1 guy. And to me, when I watch them be so active in free agency, the one thing I thought is they now have opened up the possibility that they could trade for Surtain. Why? Because they truly need a number 1 corner, and it's going to be hard to find a number 1 corner where they're picking. And the price tag for a number 1 corner might be like a 1 and a 3 this year and next year's 2. Well, that might be pretty doable for the 49ers, to be completely honest. And if you could get Surtain at the end of round 1, I mean, there's a right and a wrong time, in my opinion, to trade for the veteran. You trade picks for a veteran. The wrong time is when you're building. The right time is when you're in your Super Bowl window, like the Rams did with Jalen Ramsey. And the Niners essentially are that team right now. They're in their Super Bowl window. They want to get that ring. You could try to find a good corner in the draft, or you could just trade, for a guy like Surtain. And I think Denver's up to make the move as well. So I could see Surtain. I know there's been a lot of talk about it, but I think this is the right year to actually do it.
Yeah, I disagree on that. I mean, he's good. I don't know if you get him for 31, but I still think it's too good of an offensive tackle class to pass up on. And I mean, do they need a number 1 corner? I think Travarius Ward's a number 1 corner, and I think Diamador Lenore is a hell of a number 2 corner, who at times is better than Travarius Ward. I think that's a really good tandem. They need a number 3. And they could get a guy. I don't know what they have in Luter. Are they giving up on him? That's crazy with these red shirts. You know what I mean?
I don't think they're giving up on Luter, but I mean, you know what? The takeaway from the Super Bowl, I felt like from both the Chiefs side and the Niners side was that Snead and McDuffie beat Ayuk and Debo. And I just think the 49ers are going to learn from that and say, we want our own McDuffie and Snead. And you're right. They do have two good corners, but most teams, you got to play three. And that third guy matters. And do you want
My
that
question
third
on
guy to
that
be
third guy, is he
Womack
going to be
or Luter?
outside or is he going to be in the slot? It's possible they want to keep Lenore outside and they're looking for a nickel. That could be what they look for.
Yeah, there's that. Or they could make Lenore's a pretty aggressive tackler inside. They could make him the slot and look for an outside corner who's a true number one. I mean,
Those are hard to
at the
find.
end of
So
the
you're saying you want someone better than Shavarius Ward, who was a Pro Bowler this year. Like those are, you're looking for a like top. Hard to find. Sertan would
they
be
are.
one.
Yeah, they're really hard to
Sertan would be
find.
one. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
And they're not worth trading. Usually I would say there's no way that's worth 3 picks. But on this year's team, if you could make a trade and make, because like I was doing a thing with the coach on Saturday, and I asked coach this question. He's like, "Nah, I don't like it. I don't like the idea of it." And I said, "Well, let's just do a mock draft." And in our mock draft, he had Graham Barton in the first round, and I forget who he had in the third round. But I'm like, so coach, you wouldn't move Graham Barton in this third round pick for Sertan and then, maybe a second next year? And he's like, no, he wanted to stay with the draft picks. And I'm a draft pick guy myself. I'd rather stay with the draft picks. But in this scenario, the Niners have not demonstrated that they can pick, great players on the perimeter. If I felt like they could go into the draft and find great perimeter players, I would be like, yeah, don't trade, just keep your picks and draft. But is TJ Tampa a number one corner? I don't know. I don't know which of these guys. Quinyon Mitchell, Terrion Arnold, Nate Wiggins, McKinstry, those guys are all going to be gone. So you're going to be looking at that next group of corners, which is Kamari Lassiter from Georgia and Rakestra from Missouri and TJ Tampa. And I couldn't tell you of that group who's going to be a number one corner or if any of them have the potential to be a number one corner. So I was just thinking, man, get the number one corner in a trade with Denver. And if you give 3 picks over 2 years, so be it.
What do you think of I don't like the idea of having an opportunity to draft an offensive tackle at the end of round 1 in a really good class, someone who could be better than McKivitz right away and passing on that. I don't like that because they've had such a tough time getting offensive tackles. What about
like
Tyler?
I'm looking at the group. I'm not to interrupt you. I'm looking at the group. Like you mentioned Tyler Guyton. Trent Williams loves Tyler Guyton because I talked to him about it at the end of the year. He's like, oh, this guy's a road grader as a run blocker. So he would be the guy I'd be looking for at 31. And I'd like to have Tyler Guyton. Don't get me wrong. But that next group of Patrick Paul and the kid from Yale with the 86-inch arm reach. I mean, Kingsley Sumatea from BYU, who's intriguing. Blake Fisher from Notre Dame. They look pretty good. But to me, I like that next group that has Javon Foster from Missouri, Christian Jones from Texas, Ladarius Henderson from Michigan. The guy that I love the most is this Garrett Greenfield from South Dakota State. These guys are going to be like late second, third, in that second to fourth round range. I know normally you'd be like, I want one of the for sure, sure things. But I'd be willing to take on Garrett Greenfield in the second round or third round if I could get Sertan in the first.
Well, we'll talk about round 1 a little bit later. I don't want to get too lost in the weeds here because this was a Davius White topic, and we got to move on. But we're going to come back to this. Ethan M says, Larry, don't die on the Zach Wilson hill. We love you. Oh, I can't wait to hear this. Frank Tom Ocean, member for 12 months. Thank you very much. We're going to come back to the topics real quick. I want to acknowledge our sponsor, BetUS, and take a look at the odds for MVP because I want to put some moolah down. And I happen to think that Brock Purdy's going to win the MVP next year because I think they're going to get him one hell of an offensive tackle in the draft. And this offense is going to have no weaknesses. What do you think, Larry? Brock Purdy for MVP?
Where is his
plus 1,400?
where is he? How many choices down is he? I see Mahomes, Josh Allen,
10
Burrow.
plus 1,400 with Dak,
Oh, there he
Jalen
is.
Hurts.
There he is.
Yeah, he's right there.
Yeah, it's a great price, man. It's
Great
a great price. Well, I also think there's a chance that they add him a big time receiver because there's some really great receivers too. Maybe even another receiving tight end. Yeah.
Yeah.
Brock Purdy. I don't know. I mean,
that price is going to only go up.
It's a great 14-1 is a great price. Yeah.
I mean,
I like that.
You could go with McCaffrey at plus 4,000, but I just don't think he's going to have a better season next year than this. I mean, this year than last year.
I'm trying to think sleeper wise. Is there anybody else who could be a sleeper? I'll tell you, maybe Stafford. If the Rams get a little help.
Yep. Plus 2,500
and Cooper Kupp. I mean, that's a great price for Stafford.
Bo Nix, if you want to really make some money.
Yeah, no.
Bryce Young, sure. Anyone?
Anthony, I'll say this. I would take what's
Sam
Anthony
Darnold.
Richardson?
Sorry,
Sam Darnold.
Anthony Richardson.
What's Anthony Richardson's number? Because
plus 3,000. I think they're on you. They're on to you on that one. He's actually the 15th highest odds.
Yeah, that's not bad. He's so fast. He's so big. He's going to be a lot better in year 2.
About Deshaun Watson? He's on a good team.
Where's Stroud on there? Oh, there he is.
Yeah, where is Stroud? Stroud's above Purdy. People are on top of that.
Yeah, people know.
Jordan Love ahead of Purdy. Why?
That's recency bias right there. But they did add they just added a great runner in the Raiders running back.
Maybe that's part of it. All right, I'm placing my bet. $10 to win 140 on Bet US.
That's nice. That'd be a nice.
It's not bad.
Payoff.
Yeah, okay.
Bet US, America's favorite sportsbook and casino. Live betting and racebook. We're celebrating 30 years with a historic offer. A 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits. Plus 10% gambler's insurance. Get started today. Bet US, where the game begins.
Nice.
All right, the news last a couple hours ago is the Niners have been docked a draft pick in 2025. 5th round pick in 2025, and their 4th round pick has been moved to the end of round 4. It was probably already right near the end of round 4. It's like now it's after the comp picks or something. Okay. So losing a 5th round pick is bad. This is also very embarrassing. And the Niners assure you that they weren't trying to mislead anyone. They just messed up, which is worse. I mean, how did you weren't trying to get an advantage. You just messed up. Like, isn't someone's job to not, what do you think?
Well, I mean, pay attention. I mean, okay, we now have multiple examples in the last month of the 49ers not necessarily paying attention to all of the little details, like the rules of overtime and now the rules of accounting. It's like, know your rules, get your accountant. I mean, it's a bean counter position, and I don't want to do it. You don't want to do it, but you hired somebody to make sure that you're in compliance with the league. Get in compliance. I mean, I got to ask the question right now: is Parag too involved with the Leeds project? Is he involved in this and them being compliant on with the league cap? I don't know, but maybe he's doing too many. Maybe he's wearing too many hats. If it's his job to keep them compliant, then I got to ask the question: is he distracted by the soccer project? If it's not his job, then then somebody else screwed up. But either way, it's like, the draft is the lifeblood of the sport. Having somebody take away your 5th round draft choice and push you to the back of the 4th round is a bad look, and somebody's got to be called on the carpet. So I don't know whose fault it was. I won't pretend to know or even pretend to know what the mistake was. But, I mean, there's an accounting department. There are no such things as innocent mistakes. Mistakes are mistakes. And that sounds like a pretty costly one if it costs you a draft choice and moving back on another draft choice. So I don't know. I mean, it definitely doesn't, especially on the heels of the Super Bowl where you had guys stating they didn't know the rules to the game. Maybe it's time to get a little bit, more buckled down on the fine print.
Yeah, it sounds like what did some accountant put a decimal point in the wrong place, and now the Niners don't have a 5th-round pick next year? I mean, if it's something that stupid, then it seems like someone needs to get fired. I mean, I'm not advocating for someone to get. I'm not saying any name. I don't know anyone, but if it's something stupid and it costs them a 5th-round pick, there needs to be a consequence. It also kind of feels like. Did you ever see Office Space?
Yeah,
The little get rich quick scheme where they're like they take fractions of the
Office
cent and they drop it off into an account, and it's like, what were you guys doing? What were you trying to do? They need to explain this because it just looks really stupid right now. It seems like the plot of a bad comedy movie starring the team that lost the Super Bowl.
And you know what? Everybody, it's not, just because it's fine print doesn't mean it doesn't matter. It obviously does matter. So, get compliant, get straight, whoever your guy is, go get it done. I mean, it's not, I can sit, I'm not going to sit there and call for somebody's job. I think it's distasteful to do that kind of stuff, but obviously
it needs to be an investigation. Like, what did we do?
Screw up. I mean,
what did we do?
You only have 7 draft picks. You got one of them taken away from you. That doesn't make your football team better. I mean, let's just say this. At the end of the day, I want my accounting department not to hurt the football team. And the 49ers can't even say that their accounting department did that. Their accounting department did hurt their football team.
Here's my question too. So they say they weren't trying to create an advantage by misreporting what they paid their personnel. But did they? Did you create an advantage? Is that why you're being penalized? Like, okay, you didn't mean to. Your intentions were pure. It was a total honest mistake. But did you create an advantage? Were you cheating essentially? Like, I guess we'll find out. But there's more for them to answer.
You're in this last answer. You started to crackle and pop.
That's too bad because I was just dropping truth bombs. The Niners couldn't handle it. That's why they're messing with my internet right now.
Messing with your internet.
Yeah, it's their fault. Anyway, let me ask you this.
But yeah, no, come on, man. Seriously, at the end of the day, don't have your accounting department hurt your chances of winning the Super Bowl. You took George Kittle in the 5th round. You took Talanoa Hufanga in the 5th round. You essentially had somebody take away a draft choice that in the past was Kittle or Hufanga. Did Kittle or Hufanga make a difference? Yes. So losing this draft choice is not just nothing. Now, I don't know whose fault it is, and I'm not going to hold up a sign at the Niner facility going, this guy's got to go, but somebody down there should be kind of pissed off.
There's a report going around Twitter that the Niners could be a possible destination for Zach Wilson. I would really hate to think the Niners would give up a draft pick for him, but if and when he gets released, they might sign him, which I'm not so enthusiastic about that, but it does seem to indicate that the Niners are in the quarterback market. They let Sam Darnold go. They had 3 quarterbacks last year. Good to have an extra quarterback. You're allowed to now. You can have the guy on the roster but inactive or whatever. Do you think who should be the Niners' number 3 quarterback?
Well, these are your choices. Carson Wentz, who I think probably would be a great 3rd-string quarterback or 2nd-string quarterback, with Allen being the 3rd-string quarterback. He's beaten the Niners 4 times. Heck, teams bring in players all the time to figure out how they got ahead. You may want to bring this guy in and find out how he's beaten you 4 times. So that's one. I was impressed with Wentz's mobility.
I like that call, actually. I've always liked Wentz.
Wentz, to me, would be my call. Why? Because
people look for reasons not to like him. I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't get it either. But so Wentz and Tannehill are out there. Of those 2, I like Wentz. Then there's the whole rookie class. I've flirted with the idea of Joe Milton, who's 6'6" with the best arm and just an amazing skill set. But then I asked myself, okay, what do you really want to get out of the backup quarterback this year? What I want to get is I want to make sure that if Brock Purdy goes out for, I don't know, let's just say he does something. He misses 4 to 6 games.
Yep.
That the guy who comes in can win those games, and so that you still go to the playoffs and you don't waste another year.
That's what Jake Browning did last year. That's what Joe Flacco did last year. It can be done.
Now, Zach Wilson. Let's talk about Zach Wilson for a second. I think Shanahan liked him. Why? Because I talked to Steve Young. Steve seemed to believe that, Steve knows Wilson well because they're both BYU, hierarchy or whatever. So he says that Wilson wanted to play with the Niners and that Shanahan liked Wilson. So if Shanahan liked Wilson and Wilson likes the Niners, I think this makes sense. Now, people say, well, dude, how could you possibly say that Wilson's been terrible? All right, 2 games ago, Zach Wilson against DeMeco Ryans' defense went 27 of 36 for 301 yards, completed 75% of his passes, 2 touchdowns, 117.9 quarterback rating, ran it 3 times for 12 yards. I'm just saying, I think Zach Wilson's made some terrible mistakes. He didn't take blame the way he should have taken blame, and he got roasted by the New York media and probably lost some support in the room. But then the other thing that he's done is he's just struggled to survive in a muddy pocket situation after playing at BYU, where they never had a muddy pocket situation. And the NFL's always a muddy pocket. And Purdy's really good in a muddy pocket. But if Shanahan likes this player, I like Zach Wilson way more than I ever liked Sam Darnold. And I would take a chance. He only makes $5 million. You got a super cheap quarterback room. Why not? The trade talks that I've heard, it's like Zach Wilson for a 7th, or like a 7th and Zach Wilson for your 6th. Those are so cheap that it's like it's worth a flyer. So to me, my first choice would be Wentz, my second choice would be Zach Wilson, and my third choice would be a rookie. And I think it's important that they have a good backup quarterback. And heck, if I knew Fields was going to go for a 6th, I would have advocated for Fields.
Okay, I'm looking at Zach Wilson's game log. He did have that very nice game against Houston. The next game against Miami, he went 4 of 11 for 26 yards and 4 sacks, and they scored 0 points.
He was sacked
There's
4 times
about this guy
in the Houston game.
They say he's mobile, but he takes a bajillion sacks. I've watched him play. Like, he makes every play look like an adventure. There's never anything easy with Zach Wilson. I don't know how he went 27 for 36 in that game. He has had a few good games, but he's had so many bad ones, like a ton of bad ones. They benched him twice last year. I don't know. I would say no. I'd rather draft a guy.
Let me ask you this. Were you more negative about Zach Wilson or Darnold? Because I was more negative about Darnold, and I thought Darnold in the Niners system definitely looked better than he looked prior to that. So I don't know. We're talking about the backup quarterback. I mean, he got $10 million from the Vikings. I mean, I didn't like Sam Darnold at all with the Jets. I thought he was just a train wreck. And I watched his final game with Carolina. He was terrible. Zach Wilson has shown glimpses of greatness, and he's still got tremendous arm talent. If it was a 3rd round pick, no, hell no.
When did he show the glimpse of greatness? I missed that.
Well, in that Houston game, he was pretty damn good. I mean, if you want to go earlier in the year and their loss to Kansas City, he went 28 of 39 against the Chiefs D. That's 72%, 2 touchdowns, no picks.
His career completion percentage is 57.
I know.
Darnold's is 59.
Good. I know. No, I know. I mean,
he's done 23 touchdowns and 25 picks in his career.
I'm not.
He's been sacked 113 times.
I'm saying, no, I know. He's not been good. But that's also why you're getting him for nothing.
Because he's not good.
Yeah, he's not good. He hasn't been good.
As long as we agree on that, I'm good. If we can agree there, that's fine.
I mean, he has not been a good pro.
No.
But you know what?
Was he a good college player?
He was pretty good at college. He was pretty good in
That
college.
one year, bubble year.
But here's the thing. Steve Young was terrible early. Roger Staubach was terrible early. There's all kinds of quarterbacks that were really, really bad early that made it to the Hall of Fame. So all I'm saying is, like, I don't know.
Let's bring it back to what you said at the beginning. You need a guy for 4 to 6 weeks who can win. Can he win? Is he a project, or is he a guy that you can throw in there for 4 to 6 weeks and say, Zach Wilson will hold us down?
It's a question mark still, very much.
You know what I'm saying?
That's to
me, he's more like Justin Fields or Trey Lance, like a guy that you need to kind of work with, that you don't want to throw out there right away.
But I still believe Trey Lance is going to figure it out. I think there's a chance Justin Fields figures it out. I think there's a chance this kid figures it out. I think there's a better chance that Zach Wilson has a career than Sam Darnold. But I would still rather go with Wentz. So if it came right down to it, I'd go Wentz one. But if I can't get Wentz, who's 31, I'd take a chance on Zach Wilson, and I'd rather have Zach Wilson than just Brandon Allen and a rookie. Let's just say that.
Like, has Wentz started a playoff game? I don't know. Like, the people, the knock against Wentz is like he's unlikable. Okay,
is that
what about Zach Wilson? Yeah, what about Zach Wilson? Also, does everyone have to be likable? He's the backup quarterback. If he just keeps to himself and then plays when he has to and wins some games, like, people will like him. I don't understand. What did he do? Does he have bad breath? Some people have bad breath. Just tell him to don't talk so close to you. I'm saying.
Let me see on.
I like the Wentz idea, man. He always beats the Niners. That's one guy you don't have to worry about facing this year. Fish and Chip says Lund versus Cohn and Krueger versus Sour Death Bet US step up. I don't even begin to understand that. Thank you, Fish and Chips.
That's the bracket is out.
Oh.
Year 2 of the bracket. I think you can probably take down John Lund, even though that's a pretty tough first round matchup for you. But you'll take him down. Sour Death. I don't know enough about Sour Death.
I love a good popularity contest. It's always fun. Losing draft picks.
My kid filled out a bracket. He left it on the table, and he had Dave Lombardi winning the bracket.
Hey, Dave's good. Fish and Chip says losing draft picks and losses. So lemonade stand. Oh wow, you went there. That's right. Corey Wiggs says Ayuk is in Cabo. Just posted on his IG. Yeah, I think he's down there with the front office. They're all celebrating their. I don't know. Jewish guy says Dobbs can win some games if he steps in. Dobbs. Well, I don't think Dobbs is that much better than Brandon Allen.
My son just said Dobbs to the Niners. Is that just happened?
No. Is that really? Wow.
I'm looking it up real quick before we say anything here. I would that would be so deflating if they got Dobbs.
Yeah, it is true.
It is true.
Let's react immediately. Hold on, let me write the thing. 49ers sign Josh Dobbs. Look. Okay.
The 49ers see Bears Vikings last year. Oh my God.
Okay. Let's do that.
Awful.
The 49ers just signed Josh Dobbs according to his agent. I want to start with the nice things about this. I'm going to try to say all the nice things I can say, and Larry's going to say nice things too. Hey, I was going to say he's better than Zach Wilson, but I don't even think Larry would go that far.
No
Is
way.
he better than Sam Darnold? I don't know. Look, he played well against the Niners last year. In that game when he lost in week 5, he played pretty freaking well.
28 of 41, 265, 2 touchdowns, 102.2 rating, and ran 12 times for 48 yards.
Yeah.
And
so I think that's a big
smart, Grant. He's
very smart. He's an astrophysicist or something.
Yeah, aeronautical engineering. He could fly the plane. But if anybody saw the Monday night game on November the 27th, where the Vikings lost to the Bears 12-10, and this guy threw 4 interceptions and had a 54.3 rating. I don't know that I've seen too many worse football games ever played by a quarterback.
That is true. I remember that game.
That set the sport back. I mean, he was a sport back. I mean, that thing was. He completed 68% and still was terrible in that game. He's completed 68%. He had 4 interceptions. I don't know. I mean, I'll say this: he's big, he's athletic, he can run, he's smart. But wow. I mean, that's wow. It's not a good pickup. I mean, we can't complain about Zach Wilson when you have Josh Dobbs.
Like, you traded Trey Lance. I'd rather just have Trey Lance. But okay, he's gone. I'd rather just have a rookie. Josh Dobbs. I mean, he was so bad on the Vikings. He was okay. He was 1-7 on the Cardinals. He had some moments. He beat the Cowboys.
He looked good again.
That was his moment.
He beat the Cowboys, and he looked good against the Niners. Do you remember how good he looked in that game in October?
He didn't turn the ball over. He was good. He lost, but he had him in the game for a while. Ugh. Joshua Dobbs. Okay, other good games he had last year.
He completed 70% in week 1 against Washington. 67%, 68% against the Giants in week 2.
Okay, so he started out hot.
Yeah, 81% against Dallas.
And so that's what the Niners are looking for, right? Like what you say earlier, they need a guy who could function for 4 games. First 4 games of his season, 70%, 67%, 80%, 68%. And then he got figured out because he's a backup quarterback. So
Niners beat him. He lost to Cincy 34-20. Lost to the Rams 26-9. Lost to the Ravens. Lost to at Seattle. Lost to the Ravens. I mean, these are some pretty good teams there, actually. If you think about it. They lost to Giants, Bengals, Rams, Seahawks, Baltimore. Those are all pretty damn good teams. Then he won against Atlanta in Atlanta. He was 20 of 30 for 158, completed 67%. That's not bad. Then he beat the Saints 27-19. He was 23 of 34, so 68%, 1 touchdown. Then lost at Denver, 20 of 32 for 221. He threw an interception, had sacked twice there. Terrible against the Bears. As I said, 4 picks. I mean, it was so bad. And then beat the Raiders 3-0. 3-0. He was 10 of 23 for 63 yards. God, and sacked 5 times. So I don't know, man. He is smart. He is athletic. He has got good size. But also if you look at his football card, he's been on the Steelers, the Titans, the Cardinals, the Vikings, and the Niners are his 5th team.
Yeah.
And he's only been
maybe
in the
he could keep him
league
afloat for a month.
2018.
Maybe he could keep him afloat for a month, but anything more than that, and the Niners are in trouble. Major. I guess that's all you can ask for from a backup, but you would think that they could have done better. If they were really in the market for a backup quarterback, there were all kind of guys available the last week that they passed on. It's the cheapest guy they could get.
Why wouldn't you want Carson Wentz over that guy?
Yeah.
Here's the other question, but this kind of goes more back to my Surtain theory. How many needs do the Niners really have? Now they don't even have a need at backup quarterback. They don't need a running back. They really don't, on paper, need a receiver, even though you could maybe draft one. They have Kittle and 3 other tight ends, so they need a tight end, but nothing desperate. They need offensive line help, but they've just signed a bunch of D linemen. You just signed a couple linebackers, including Devondre Campbell and a special teamer. You maybe need a couple players in your secondary. My point is they have about 10 picks, and they really need like about 5 players. This might be the draft to go trade 3 picks for 1 great player. That's all I'm saying.
I just have a feeling they're not going to trade for Patrick Surtain, but we'll see. Roger Cantu says, can't wait to see Mandy recap this show. I like his recaps. Adam C says, shout out to my girlfriend, Brooke W. from Eureka. We're planning to go to a Niner game, and she refuses to go without stopping at Pig in a Pickle. There you go.
Get that barbecue.
Member for 7 months. Good barbecue. Fit Fish and Chips. Dobbs versus Jimmy G coming to prime time in 24 hours. In 2024. Sorry, didn't read that correctly. I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Have the Niners fixed their pass rush? It statistically wasn't good last year. They let Chase Young go. They brought in Leonard Floyd. They released Eric Armstead. They brought in Malik Collins. Is this going to be I mean, they have very high standards for their pass rush. Is this pass rush going to meet their standards?
Well, I haven't talked to you since the Floyd, but I love the Floyd signing. I think the Floyd signing, I like Floyd more than I like the guys that they have last year, quite a bit more.
Me too.
Malik Collins is a way better pass rusher than when he came out of Nebraska. And Jordan Elliott's got good, quick feet. He's 310 pounds. I like him potentially giving, I like the health of Collins and Jordan Elliott. But I don't see do they have a special, I mean, do they have anybody? I mean, Drake Jackson, question mark. Yatir Gross Matos, question mark. Robert Beal Jr., question mark. Austin Bryant, question mark. So where are the answers? You've got Bosa, you've got Leonard Floyd. I still think I still think they need help there to be really as good as they want to be. If they really want, I mean, they've got a bunch of bodies on their D line, but I don't see real special difference makers. I love Bosa and Floyd, but I'd like to see them add at least one more really good pass rusher and maybe one really good tackle.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much Yatur Gross Matos is going to help the pass rush, although I've seen people say that they think he has a little potential, like maybe playing defensive tackle on third down as an interior rusher. We'll see. But I do think that Leonard Floyd is a big-time upgrade over what they've had on the edge in years. And Malik Collins should be able to recreate what Armstead would give him as a pass rusher. I mean, not in style, but in production, overall production. So I'm buying this. I feel like their pass rush should be a lot better this year. And that's what they want. They want to have one of the best pass rushes in the league. Last year, the Chiefs had a much better pass rush than the Niners, and they won the Super Bowl. So this is really important to them. My next question for you is, have the 49ers fixed their run defense? Because that was arguably an even bigger issue for them last year.
I would say no. They haven't fixed their run defense. Hargrave doesn't stop the run. Now, Jordan Elliott, had some great numbers last year against the run, and Collins is enormously strong. But I think they still need that proven, run plugger up front, that one technique, that DJ Jones, that, there's a couple guys like this in the draft. I think they could definitely use another big-bodied corner who could be dominant as a edge setter. To me, the real need is at safety. Hafanga's good in the box, but he falls off of running plays all the time, and you don't know about his health. Their backups are nothing. I mean, George Odom is a great special teamer, but Eric Harris, terrific story, but he's a street free agent. Taylor Hawkins is a practice squad guy. Hafanga's coming off an ACL. Jair Brown is good, but a little reckless. They need a couple of outstanding run defender DBs, like the kid Melton out of Rutgers at corner, and Malik Mustafa out of Wake Forest. Who both those guys they've looked at heavily before the draft. They need to find some DBs who can step up, like Jimmy Ward did, like Tart did, like who was the little slot corner they had forever, who was really good against the run, but he was tiny. K1. They Mosley, K1, Ward, Tart. They lost 4 really good run defenders in their secondary. They need to get a couple more really good run defenders in their secondary. They've been getting away on the fact that Warner and Greenlaw are just bad hombres. They can't just put it all on those two guys. They got to get a little bit better against the run up front and in the secondary.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like Yatur Gross Matos and Jordan Elliott should both help the run defense when they're on the field, but I don't know how much they're going to play. Are they going to have roles on the team? Are they going to get like a series here and there? Don't know. And then if the starters are Malik Collins and Leonard Floyd, how good are they going to be against the run? That looks almost like a nickel front. So I have questions with that. And then I feel like the Niners have had issues at linebacker since Azeez left. Last year, I've never felt like Oren Burks was a linebacker. He seems like a special teams player. And then Dre Greenlaw was hurt all year. It looked like he was limping around the field, and then he finally got hurt, and now he's gone, at least for a while. I think they could. Devondre Campbell, I mean, he wasn't their first choice. He really hasn't been good in a while. Maybe he'll be good this year. But if not, they got an issue at linebacker. Flanagan Fowles. He's been on the team. It feels like he's been on the team for 5 years. That's another guy who looks like a special teams player.
Yeah. They need one more. I mean, they had 3 wreckers, right? They had Greenlaw, Warner, and Aziz.
Oh.
They need to have one more. Now they have one. They need to find one more guy like that. I love Cedric Gray from North Carolina, but there's a bunch of guys in this draft at linebacker that can really run and hit. But they got to find a linebacker.
What about D. Winters and Jalen Graham? Is there any hope there?
I love both those guys. I mean, Jalen Graham, I think, is going to be really, really good. Winters, not as much, but Winters, I think, is really good on the running sideline to sideline. But I think Graham's got the potential to actually step into the hole and make some plays. So I like those guys. You also have Curtis Robinson as your special teamer. They signed Ezekiel Turner as a special teamer. They have Demetrius Flanagan Fowles, but he's a special teamer. They need a from scrimmage real linebacker.
Yeah,
they need a interior defensive tackle who's really a plugger inside that takes up a lot of room. And then they could use, as I said, a couple of DBs, maybe one really good run player on the corner, but they need that big safety hitter that they've missed Jimmy Ward. They missed the guy who's going to step up at 195 and just bring absolute heat as a run defender. So they need, it's interesting, Grant. They went from depth to Hargrave, and a lot of those guys that they ushered out the door were all good against the run. So now you look at them and you say, well, they're not as good against the run. What do? Well, they need to kind of replenish that. All the 4 or 5 guys they marched out of the room with quality run defenders on all 3 levels of their D. If they do that, they'll be better.
Yeah. Hard left turn, $2. Thank you very much. Jeffrey Franco says, what is a perfect O-line fix scenario? To me, it's finding a starting tackle in this excellent tackle draft. That's nice. I don't know. Other people.
I'll give you mine. I think the best, one plan, and then this would be a unique plan, and there'd be lots of people ripping it. But the West Virginia center is named Zach Frazier. He's just a ridiculous destroyer, right? Maybe you go for a guy. Maybe you trade back. He's projected to go around 50. Maybe you trade back 10 spots and you take that guy at 40. And then, so now you've got this dominating 300-pound center who's far better than Brendel. And then guard-wise, there's some big-time guards in this draft. I mean, Mahogany from Boston College, Cooper Beebe from K-State, Mason McCormick I really like a lot from South Dakota State. And maybe in that 3rd round, you can get like a McCormick and Greenfield. They both played on the right side of the line together at South Dakota State. If you walked away from this draft and you had Zach Frazier, Mason McCormick, Garrett Greenfield, none of those are household names. None of those guys are big-time guys. To me, you would be dramatically better because you would have a dominant center and a right side of the line that could grow together and potentially be really, really a strength.
Okay. Gizmo Maltese says we forgot the lesson when all 3 quarterbacks went down. No, we didn't forget. It's just Josh Dobbs. Chase Young to the Saints. Good luck, New Orleans. Jewish guy says he killed it at first. He can step in and win, and he doesn't threaten Brock. He did kill it at first. He did a good job. Fish and Chips, future KS quote, Dobbs is the next Randall Cunningham. Oh, these jokes, they just write themselves. Larry, assuming the Niners don't trade their 1st-round pick, which they absolutely could, but let's say they don't, which position do you think they'll draft in round 1?
Well, Grant, you and I have been doing this for a number of years. So you know the way this all works. We talk about offensive tackles. We talk about receivers. We talk about corners. And then the draft rolls around and they draft a defensive tackle. So my guess, if you said to me, what do I think they'll do? I think they're going to do what they do, which is they're going to draft a defensive tackle. My guess is it would be, either Byron Murphy from Texas, Braden Fisk from Florida State, Rook or Roro from Clemson. That if or maybe even a one technique guy like a Jackson McKinley from A&M or Tavondre Sweat from Texas. I think that teams in the first round, they draft what they value, and the Niners value defensive linemen, and now they've got Yetur Gross-Matos and Leonard Floyd. I could see maybe an edge guy if Latu from UCLA fell. They like Jonah Ellis, probably from Utah. They're working out this Marshawn Nealand. But if you said to me, wager on what the Niners will actually do, I will take the 49ers going for that 3 technique tackle, and I think it will be one of those 3 guys, Byron Murphy, Braden Fisk, or Rook or Roro.
I feel like Malik Collins was a serious investment in the offense, in the defensive line. He's signed for 2 more years. I'm still looking at that Colton McKivitz extension. Like, I don't think they're as committed to him. They extended him, but how much do they like him? Did they extend him because they want him long term, or because they want people to think they're not in the market for an offensive tackle? The way I look at it is, it seems like there's 7 offensive tackles projected to get drafted to go in round 1. I think they got to get one of them, because all 7 are probably better than Colton McKivitz. And maybe they have to trade up a few spots to get one. But if they could get Tyler Guyton, I mean, the reason that he's intriguing is because you could put him at right tackle for a year or 2, and then he could move to left tackle eventually. If you could get a guy like that, that's pretty enticing. And if he has the Trent Williams seal of approval, went to the same school, they also, I mean, it seems like Oklahoma produces some pretty good offensive lineman, Creed Humphrey. I think about it.
He's a good player. There's no question about it. He's a good player. He was a really good run blocker. He was a basketball player in high school, so he's got great athleticism. Honorable mention, all Big 12 this year. He played. Trent likes him as a run blocker. He's a Texas kid. He's from Manor, Texas. He's 6'7", about 330. Started at TCU, transferred to Oklahoma. I mean, Trent says I talked to him about him in December. He's like, oh, this guy's a destroyer in the run game. So maybe he's the guy. That to me, that makes perfect sense. And the guy that,
and you could move McKivitz to right guard if you want, or he could compete with Spencer Burford. That could work.
Well, the other thing is, maybe you use, if you don't, since you're not trading, if you don't trade for a Surtain and you're going to go with this, maybe you trade your 2nd round pick and you move up. 2 offensive linemen that are really highly rated that they met with. One is Talieisi Fuaga, and the other is J.C. Latham. And Latham from Alabama is just absolutely the prototype.
Right.
I mean, 6'6", 350, just dominating. Just like you could, and he played right tackle. He wore 65 for Alabama. You put him at right tackle, he could be your next tackle for the next, 12 years or something. He is an awesome guy. And some of the, because of the depth of the draft, because Bo Nix and Michael Penix are likely to go in round 1 and not round 2, some players are going to fall down. And a guy like Latham, who's projected to go anywhere between like 15 and 20, if he fell to 25 and you could figure out a way to move your 2nd round pick and move up 5 or 6 spots, I could see them going for him. Mims is interesting too at 6'8", 340, but he's only made 8 career starts. And then you guys got to wonder, how much does he love to play if he's only started 8 times? So there's a little concern there. But if you stayed where you're at, Tyler Guyton, Jordan Morgan, Jesse's a big fan of Jordan Morgan. Only thing about Morgan is he's got kind of shorter arms. Where like 32-inch arms, where Mims is like 37-inch arms. So it's just it's different.
Well, Blake Fisher.
Geometry. Blake Fisher's interesting, Notre Dame guy who's the
Niners have liked their Notre Dame guys on the offensive line. So they're gonna, long story short, they're drafting Blake Fisher.
Yeah,
in round 2.
They could go with, but that's a guy who's interesting. There's no question about it. He was a 4-star high school recruit and considered to be a really smart guy. So yeah, I mean that could be an answer. But the nice thing about the way I think this draft goes is that, man, you get into that second round. In the past, you've been done. Like, oh, you can't get a good tackle. Now, Javon Foster, Christian Jones, Ladarius Henderson, Garrett Greenfield. These guys are good tackles, and they're going to be there in the second round.
Yeah. Let's take a few supers and get out of here. Fish and Chips got you. Troy M, if you could assure the Niners pick one specific player in the draft, realistic based on our picks, who's the choice?
I would say it's
expert.
I would say it's the linebacker Cedric Gray from North Carolina. Why? Because he is Greenlaw. He is Warner. He is. Those guys are easy to predict. I think if you find a guy who's got the athleticism and he's got the production and he's played in a big conference, man, that's a very, very safe pick. If I told you that Cedric Gray was literally in that same category of Greenlaw and Warner, and you could get him in the second round, would you draft him?
Yeah, sounds like a great second round pick for sure.
Yeah, everybody would.
Yep. They definitely need a linebacker. I'm not sold on Devondre Campbell. I don't know if Devondre Campbell sold on Devondre Campbell, but we'll see. Larry, thank you so much. Great show.
Good stuff, man.
Oh, real quick, before we go, at the buzzer, Matt McEwen on my last show wanted to point out that PFF has Isaiah Oliver rated ahead of Diamador Lenore in 2023. So that's just a little context when using PFF grades. And that was just a general reminder for people in the world. So, Matt McEwen, thank you. See you, everyone.
Seriously, that's good to know. Because
Good to know.
PFF, I mean, I like PFF. Don't get me wrong; they do some nice work, but no, yeah, I don't. It's not the Bible.
I mean, it's a good guideline. They've been doing it for a long time. They watch every snap, but as numerous coaches and players have pointed out, they don't really know the assignments. So there's a lot of guesswork that goes in. I mean, you're grading these players. You're not really asked what their responsibility was on the play. You don't really know. And that's why this data hub's going to have slightly different grades, and everyone will. But, it's good. Good knowledge. Good to know.
It's all good, except when you watch a team every day and you know that Diamador Lenore is better than Isaiah Oliver, and then you see a stat that says that Oliver's better, it kills the credibility of the ranker.
It kind of does, because Lenore's good and Oliver's bad. Benched.
Right.
Anyway.
Moved on.
Thanks, everyone. See you guys later. Have a good one.